So good morning, everybody. I can't see you. Hopefully you can see me and hopefully you can hear me nice and clearly. My name is Bronwyn Russman and I'd like to welcome you to the morning buzz session on ERM or full folio. Which one do we pick? So, like I said, I'm Bronwyn Russman. I am the Director of SaaS Innovation for EBSCO. SaaS stands for Software as a Service. So I'm really everything to do with technology at EBSCO. So if you've got a question on Open Athens, on Discovery, on Folio, any kind of technology system, I'm there to really help you with that. So it's really nice that I can do that, and it's really nice to be able to start today with this session on ERM or full folio. So I am going to divide the session into two sections. I am going to start with ERM and then I'm going to move into the full folio. If Annika, you can please just monitor the chat and please just like go, hey Brian, if there's any question that I'm missing because I'm not seeing it on my screen. Okay.
No problem, Bron. Both me and Dembelechli will look.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. So before we go into the full folio or ERM, so let's talk about a couple of fundamentals. And I'm sure everybody's seen this slide a couple of times before, but if you haven't, that's great. So let's talk about what folio is. And there are a couple of things that are really important to think about when looking at a system. And the first two on the screen here are modern and modular. And for me, these kind of go hand in hand. So modern, in the sense of folio, is pointing to new technologies. It's about the development, innovation of the software. And I really believe that folio has done that. It's really taken everything that is an ILS and turned it on its head. It's changing our thinking, it's changing the way things are done, and it's pushing that modern thought technology. It's also pushing modern in terms of the coding language that it's designed upon. So it's new, it's forward-facing, it's future-thinking technology within folio. And part of that is that modularity. So it's about those parts making up the sum. And you can have any number of parts to make up the sum that you would like to expect in your library. And what I mean by that is, if you look at folio, it's made out of little bits, and these are called microservices architecture, but they're really just little bits of a bigger picture. And you put that puzzle together, those pieces together in a way that suits you and works for you in your environment. A big part of folio, and it's part of the name, so the future of libraries is open, is that it's open source. So that code is out on the web. You're not going to pay for a software license if you decide you want to move with folio. It also means that you as an organization can choose to download and use that software and support it yourself, implement yourself, and move forward with it yourself. And there's no cost for that software piece associated with it. Obviously, if you'd like support and a community, EBSCO, UKS, and a number of partners are around the world are there to really walk that journey with you. So what EBSCO is doing is we're doing folio services from EBSCO. So basically, we are engaging with that open source software and that open source and the open community. And then we are supporting our customers with our partner in South Africa, UKS. And we do things like implementation, support, training, and then we have a couple of other softwares that you can look at, including in that folio environment if you would like to. So I didn't say anything that I wrote down, but that's fine. Okay, so let's jump into ERM. Okay, before we do that, sorry, 1 minute slide break. You need to think about folio as a browser-based library management system. Okay, so it's not about having a server on your premises. It's not about running software off that server on your premises. It's about this cloud-based, browser-based system. So everything is sitting on your work, engaging it through Google Chrome. Okay, so you're not having to come into the office to be able to interact with the software. You can just open up your browser and off you go. As a customer, you will get your own tenant of folio. It's hosted on Amazon Web Services. You'll have your own URL. So it'll probably be something like folio.unizulu.com or folio.dut.com, and it'll have your own configuration. So it'll have your own setup, your unique setup. Because of this way of working with Folio, when you have a software update on the system, we do run it by tenant, but it's run in the cloud, and it happens when you decide you want to, when you are ready to move with that software upgrade. Talking about upgrades, this is actually what's happened in the last probably couple of months since I did the TIUG. So at the TIUG, which we hosted in March, we were talking about the notice release, which was coming. It was released on the 19th of April. The next release is Morning Glory, which is scheduled for the 8th of August. And then after that, we've got Nolana, which is scheduled for early 2023. And what I really like about this is that we are moving at such a rapid pace. We are moving forward with Folio, and we're developing these releases quite quickly. And the reason for that is because of the way the software is designed, because of the technology that is behind that software, and because we have lots and lots of little different teams. And when I say we, I'm talking about the Folio community, not EBSCO. The Folio community, supported by EBSCO, obviously, has lots and lots of groups of people working on different things, and then we pull it together. And it's really, really interesting to see that all coming together into into something real and a software. Okay, let's get to it. So we're about 5 minutes into our presentation. Let's talk about ERM first. Okay, so ERM first includes these apps that I have listed on the page. And when we talk about Folio, we talk about apps. We don't talk about modules, which is more traditional language. We talk about apps. And apps is really about modernizing the language around it, but again points to that modular system. Everything has an app. And the apps work together, and then you have worker apps working within those apps. And I'm going to go into more detail on this as we go through the presentation. But what I really like about Folio is you can choose as a library to go with ERM first, so your electronic resources management system first. You don't have to take that step and go with a full Folio system. You can just say, oh, well, you know what? At the moment, I don't have an ERM system that supports me. I use an Excel spreadsheet, maybe you use a Word document, whatever it might be, but perhaps it's not enough. Perhaps it doesn't support you enough. And you're in a long-term contract with a provider, and you want something that will support you in your ERM workflows. And this is what Folio allows you to do. And this is really what I like about it, because you can look at little bits. So ERM first gives you a couple of apps, and it really allows you to start within that ERM workflow. So if we look at the apps that make up ERM, you have a couple of different apps, okay? And the first app within the ERM workflow is organizations. Now, when I started with my training on Folio, it was a little bit like, oh, okay, I'm not really sure, and I've got to kind of manage it and understand my expectations. But as I've come to understand Folio, it makes so much sense, and it's actually so logical. So when you look at ERM, the first thing you need to do is set up your organizations. Okay, and organizations are anybody that you partner with. So it might be Sandlek, it might be Cotal if you're in Tanzania, it might be Tliskin if you're in Kenya, it might be vendors. So it might be EBSCO, it might be Sabinet, it might be publishers. Whoever you work with, you would set up in your organizations app. And this could be anything, okay? It could be your local spa if you really wanted to add that. But it really is about setting up who as a library you are working with. And for ERM, this is particularly important. And what this app allows you to do is to capture those relationships with those entities and manage those contacts within those relationships. And this function, an organizations app, is essentially tied to your acquisitions workflow and your ERM workflow, because essentially they're doing very similar things. If we look within the organizations app, you can see over here, I did a search for EBSCO. So I'm at EBSCO, I'm going to do a search for EBSCO. And you can see in the middle, I have a record of 6 different EBSCO organizations, and these are EBSCO from around the world. And you can see on the right-hand side, there's a status. So these are active organizations. And that means as a ERM or an e-resources librarian, I know that I can place orders with these organizations. I know I have functionality with these organizations. If they are marked as pending or not active, you can't actually do anything with that. And that's what I really like about Folio is it's very simple. This layout is incredibly simple and it gives you everything you need within that page. If I jump into the EBSCO record, I quite like this. So if you look, we've got our 3 panes. So you can see on the left-hand side, I did the search. In the middle is the search results. And if I click on one of the search results, it goes into more information about that particular item that I've clicked on. So Colleen said morning, noon, and night yesterday at a presentation. It was quite funny. But here you can see that I've kind of taken that 3-step approach to get to what I'm looking for. And you'll see across Folio, this is standard. It's very the same, it's consistent. You won't get something that looks completely different. If you have a look on the right-hand side, I highlighted 3 boxes. The first box is being able to give alternative names for an organization. And I've got a really good example here because I did enjoy it. So when EBSCO bought Gobi, Gobi was called YBP, and YBP was very popular in the US. It was known as YBP, it was known as Yankee Book Peddler. Then we changed the name to Gobi, and now a lot of customers associated with EBSCO. So you might have 4 different aliases for the same organization. This helps with searching. So if you are used to calling EBSCO or EBSCO Publishing, EBSCO, whatever it might be, you can actually use that as a search mechanism. You can also see in the middle, you can add contact information. So here I've got Josh Beck. You can see that he is my customer services representative. He also represents shipments. You might have a sales representative, finance, management, whatever it might be. And you can really associate them with categories. So you know who you can contact based on what kind of interaction you want to have. We've also included here any related platforms. So I know with EBSCO, you've got EBSCO Host Collection Manager for ebooks. You might have Gobi. You might have EBSCO Net for your journals. You might have EBSCO Admin. So you have all these behind the scenes platforms over and above EBSCO Host or EBSCO Discovery Service. And you might want to list those there. And you might want to also place in their credentials to get onto that. So if you're not sitting on campus. And this could be made available to other administrators within that Folio community, because remember, Folio is for administration. It's not your end user platform, but it allows, let's say, Colleen, who's sitting at her home or at the office, and I'm not at work today, to say, oh, you know what, I really need to get into EBSCO Admin. How do I do that? She can come into the organizations app and get that information. You can also pull notes in for an organization. So you can also say, oh, you know what, people have different login details. You perhaps only have 100 licenses, they're on rotation. You could see where your statistics are coming from and any other information. So vendor information, your vendor terms, accounts, so accounts number, whatever you would like to have is set up in your organization's app. And it's everything about that vendor or partner that you need to do with that interaction. The next up is the licenses app. And you can see on the top left-hand corner, you can see now I've moved to licenses. And this is also fundamental to an ERM system. So I was in a training the other day, and the trainer by the name of Molly called this the meat of the ERM sandwich. And I had a little chuckle, but that was really before I realized that actually, no, it really is the meat. It's really the thing that ties everything together. And this is where you can do things like make terms of use available to end users, or be able to say, well, these are the terms of use. And you put all this information into this license so that people understand exactly what is going on with that particular license. So here you can see I've got advances in gerontology. There's the site terms and conditions, active license, when's the start date, is it open? So you can really see at a quick glance what that particular license is about. Licenses are then assigned within an organization. So you might have multiple licenses for an organization, and you want to create that link between licenses and your organizations. So your licenses app then controls the agreements app. Okay, so you've got your overstanding license or the license agreement. Think about EBSCO license agreement. And then you've got an agreement like a product order form. Okay, and I'm going to come to that in a couple of slides. But next up, we've got our EHoldings app. And this for me is one of the most interesting apps within Folio. Remember, we're talking about ERM, and you can go with ERM only at this point. But the EHoldings app is a direct link to what you have in EBSCO admin for your holdings and link management. So if you've got an EBSCO Discovery Service subscription, you'll be aware of holdings and link management. And before Folio came along, everything was managed in holdings and links management. So you used to be able to check on what packages you had. You could put in any custom dates into that, any notes into that. That now happens if you're a Folio customer. That happens here. And this is a bi-directional API. And so your API is just really that piece of string that connects these two technologies. And it's that communication. So it says, okay, so I'm doing something in EHoldings. It automatically updates in real time in EBSCO admin, and it kind of goes back and forth. So if you're working in EBSCO admin and you're more comfortable in EBSCO admin, you can do the work in EBSCO admin and it reflects in EHoldings. So I really like this, and it's a very, what's the word? I've gone blank for the word, but really it is a real life example of how these APIs can actually work. And these APIs can link out to anything. So anything you want, we can make it work for you. So this is really about that day-to-day management of your knowledge base. Okay, I mentioned the layout. Layout is the same across different apps. And here you can see I've got 104 packages that are selected from a total of 666 packages from EBSCO. And then we've got our open access packages. I then went into the EBSCO organization or EBSCO package within the EHoldings app. And here you can see again, I've got the provider information, my proxy settings come in, any notes that I'd like to add. And again, this is connected to your holdings and links management, which powers your publication finder, full text finder. So quick ad break, very, very quick. Please join me tomorrow when I talk about the new EBSCO Discovery user interface. Annika will send the link afterwards, but really this is about everything we're talking about in Folio and in EBSCO admin and how it reflects on the user side. So please do join me tomorrow. Okay, ad break over. So carrying on with the EHoldings app. Here you can see I went into EBSCO and now I've gone into Academic Search Ultimate. You can see within Academic Search Ultimate, my holding status. For some reason, I only have 16 out of 14,000 titles selected. If this was the case, I'd probably want to look at this and say, well, I'm subscribing to 14,000 titles. I would like to activate all 14,000. Okay, so you can really quickly and easily jump in and see and work within those packages, work within those databases in that EHoldings app. So the last app within ERM is agreements. And this is where it all comes together. Okay, so the agreements app brings together your resources, so your EHoldings, with your licenses terms, so the licenses that you've associated with an organization. So now I've got three apps. I've got EHoldings, I've got licenses, I've got your organizations, and then the agreement that you have. So if you look here, I've got an Elsevier agreement that will run for 12 months from the 1st of August to the 31st of July. I've got a cancellation deadline within there. So you have to cancel by the 1st of May. And it's really quick and easy to set up. You can see on the top right-hand side, I can add in a new agreement. So if you've got a new subscription, you can add a new agreement in there. And all of this comes together with the dashboard. And that's in about 3 slides time when I'm going to show you the dashboard. But if we jump into an agreement, so here you can see I've done an EBSCO information services agreement. I've come in, you can see your end date and your start date and your end date. You can see the status. You can see if it has a priority for renewal. So maybe you're questioning the renewal. So you would like to put that in and say, okay, we need to look at usage statistics or whatever it might be. You can also just edit it or duplicate it. So if it's something that you are going to renew, you've got this template. You can then, for the next period, is just duplicate this template and carry on going. So you've got that historic information and then that information going forward within that agreements app. You also can see your license and business terms in your app. You can see what organizations are linked to that, your controlling license, any historical license, any other documents that are coming into that particular app. Okay. And then, like I said, we've got that dashboard. So this really was created initially for ERM only customers, but this dashboard is now available across the board. So it's saying, okay, so what resources need to be renewed by a particular date? What agreements are expiring in this amount of time? And these are widgets that you can set up in the dashboard. And this is set up for you as an individual user. So remember, you log in as Bronwyn or Mose or Colleen. This is your space within Folio. And that's just something I want to mention. So when you set up Folio, be it ERM or the full Folio, we set up individual kind of dashboards or user interfaces, depending on that user. So if you've got somebody who's only working on ERM, they would only see these apps. If they are working only in circulation, they would only see the circulation apps and so forth. I got another ad break. I really want you to come tomorrow. So please join me tomorrow to talk about the new EBSCO Discovery Service interface. It's going to be fun. Okay. So let's talk about full folio. And I don't know if there are any questions at this point. Is everybody okay? I'm not talking too fast. I haven't lost anybody. Can I just have from somebody? Everybody's okay?
No questions at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Leaflet. Okay, so let's look
at the ad breaks.
Yeah, the ad breaks were good. Hey, I thought the ad breaks were good.
Almost like SABC.
Yeah, there's only one more ad break, I can promise you. Okay, so now let's take a look at full folio. Okay, so we've spoken about ERM, and you can go with ERM first. You can also make the leap and do a full folio. So you can choose to go with a completely new library system. And EBSCO in South Africa have partnered with UKS for this. And we really work together to make sure that everything works, that there's shared knowledge, that we grow and we learn, and we're able to support you in the best possible way. Okay. So like I said, full folio contains everything that you have in ERM, so all those elements, as well as everything that you would expect from a traditional ILS or LMS or LSP, whatever you would like to call it. So I'm not going to go into a training session because we are almost at 10 o'clock. But I would rather encourage you, if you want to see full folio in depth, to speak to one of us, be it Tian, Dean, Mose, Colleen, or myself, or Annika, and we will happily set up a full demo on the full folio. So let's go into a whirlwind tour of the full folio. Have you got your coffee, got your tea, got your hats on? Let's go. Okay, so you've seen this a couple of times, but these are really all the apps that make up full folio, okay? So you can see that along the top, and then I drop down that menu bar, and you can see all the different apps that make up folio. So through the remainder of the session, I'm going to talk about circulation, acquisitions, and then your metadata management. And the metadata management is kind of the last bit of it, but I want to separate them to give you an idea of how these different apps can work together. So let's jump into circulation. Okay, so what's the apps drive circulation? And you can see I've used very pretty pink arrows to show you what apps drive circulation, but you can see It's check in, check out. Obviously, it's about books and items going in and out. It's about the circulation log, so seeing what has actually happened within your circulation. It's about courses, and courses are really nice. I'm going to talk about that at the end of circulation. Obviously, it's about inventory because it's about the things that you have on your shelves and what they're doing and then movement. And then it's also about users. So me as a user putting in a request, the tasks that are associated that, and then the settings. Okay, so everything is based in settings. So let's go into settings. So settings, and you can see here, I opened the settings app, and you can see on the left-hand side, I have all the different apps that I have available in Folio, and then we have many settings apps. So these are where you would set up your configuration for all those main apps that you work in. So these are just, they're not really apps within settings, they're just those tools within settings. So here you can see I have highlighted calendar. So within circulation, you obviously need to tell your users when your library is open and when it is closed. So the calendar settings allows you to do that. You also have locations. So within Folio, you're going to have locations. And within Folio, we've done this on a kind of 4-tier hierarchy. So you would set up an institution. An institution can have many campuses. Many campuses can have many libraries, and many libraries can have many locations. And you can set it up to be as complicated or as simple as you would like within that Folio instance. You can also set up your service points. So that's really where you would engage with your users. So it might be your circulation desk. It might be internal service points, so like a mending desk or an interlibrary loan desk. So you set that up in the tenant of Folio in the settings. Okay. You also see, and this is kind of a little highlight that I really want to include, but we can also load in SSO settings. So those are your single sign-on settings. Here you can see it's Open Athens for the Folio demo. But if you are using a SAML-based SSO tool, we can actually set that up in Folio. And that's about thinking towards the future. It's about saying, well, what kind of tools might you engage with in the future? You don't have to set it up right now, but you can do it later within Folio. So now I'm jumping into the circulation settings, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time within the circulation settings because I really like this. Okay, so now I am not a librarian, okay, but I have been working for EBSCO for almost 14 years, so I think I do have some knowledge. But when I started embarking on Folio, I realized I really didn't know anything. Okay, and I've done quite a lot of research and quite a lot of reading on how circulation is normally done. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that circulation in the past has been a lot of functions in Excel that you set up, and it's like a lot of work and it's a lot of admin. So what we've done in Folio is we have turned this on its head. So the first thing that you need to do when you set up your circulation rules is set up your policies. So you're going to set up, what are your loan policies? What are your policies for overdue items or fines? What are your patron notice policies? So any of those policies that you would like to set up, you set up first. Once you've got those policies, you then create rules. Okay, so then you create what rules govern these policies. So here you can see you've got your priority in your first step, and then you've got a fallback policy. So those are kind of two most important. And then if I go into a little bit more detail, you can see here, I have set up a policy for books. Okay, so now I'm going into books. As a general rule, I have a 14-day loan policy on books. It is allowed for all. I have a check-in or check-out courtesy letter that is sent via email. I have an overdue fine policy per day. So what is that policy? And then I have a lost item policy. So I basically set it up with building blocks. One of my colleagues in the US kind of sees the terms as Lego. So you add building blocks, and it's really easy because it's just a drop down. So you will drop down and say, okay, so for books, I've got a 14-day policy. You might have a 7-day policy for books, and you assign that policy. Okay, but now I have exceptions. So what happens with exceptions? So here you can see I've got an exception for faculty or graduates or alumni. And then you've got special cases. So it's really, really simple to set up as long as you've got all those policies predetermined before you go into those rules. And I think for me, it makes a lot of sense because that is how we would think. It doesn't take me into an Excel spreadsheet where somebody's going to throw an if function at me, and then my if function doesn't work, and then it's just not going to work. Okay, so now that we've got that set up, we've got our circulation rules, we've done our settings, we've got to jump into the users app, okay? So now remember, we are talking about circulation. So you need somebody who wants the item. So I'm a student, I'm a first year, I'm coming in, I want to take out a book, okay? So anything that needs to be circulated will start with that user, and that user is an app within Folio, okay? So this will include all your patron records, and you can either use your SSO through Open Athens or a SAML-based system, or you can do batch uploads, okay? It's up to you, and it depends on where you are sitting and how it's configured. And again, this points to kind of being able to work with any type of library. So whether you are a library that has taken things like Open Athens, or you're still doing batch loading, it doesn't matter, we can work with you in Folio. You can see I did a search for me. So here you can see Rasman, I've got 2 accounts. I've got an admin account and a student account in Folio. You can see on the right-hand side, there I am. You can see when it was last updated. I've got a barcode. You could see if I was very naughty and wasn't allowed to take out anything under patron blocks. Your extended information is in there, and your contact information is in there. So I have to share this because I thought it was very funny. So I was doing training, and one of the gentlemen was like, yeah, now we do not import our postal addresses into Folio because you don't need postal addresses. And he was in the US, and they obviously still use the post. And I was like, we don't use that here. The notice would never get to the user if we had to post a notice to the user. So, but perhaps you have a postal address, so you've got a distance education institution, you want to add that postal address into it. You can absolutely do that. Okay. This is also where I can see what I can and cannot do in Folio in terms of administration. So here I'm an administrator. I can see what I can do, what changes I can make within that Folio environment. If I scroll down a little bit, and you can see my pink arrow, you can also see as a user what requests I have. So here you can see I've got 2 open requests, and then I've got 2 closed requests, okay? This is coming from the requests app, okay? So it's coming from another application in Folio into that users app because they all essentially tie together. So circulation is about users and requests, okay? And we're gonna get to inventory shortly, okay? So any requests that I might have, you can create within this. You can also create it within the requests app. So you can do it in a number of different places. And if I click on an open request, you'll see I'll jump into the request app. So it's very fluid and it's very intuitive. So here in the request app, you can see I've got 2 requests that were set up on the 14th of April. You can see what I've looked for. And if I jump into that particular request, it'll give me a little bit more information. And this information over here is coming from my inventory. Okay, so this is coming from the inventory app in Folio. If I click on the barcode, which is listed over here, I then jump into inventory. Can you see that? I hope you can see that. For me, the inventory app is a really cool app. Okay, and this is essentially the catalog of all your records. Okay, so this is what did a colleague of mine call, it's like the house of truth within your organization. So this is really where everything comes in. The first thing I want to do, and you can see my little pink arrow, is I want to explain the hierarchy that is set up for inventory in Folio. Now, these words might be familiar, they might not be familiar to you, but it's quite nice because what we've done is we've created an overarching record and then kind of in between or underneath records within that. So the first record that we have over here, and it's highlighted in blue, is your instance. And this is your BIB record, what we traditionally thought of as our BIB record, okay? In Folio, you can pull your records in from MARC, okay? If a MARC record comes in, it's stored as a SRS record, so source record storage. And then what happens is that record is changed and made into an instance record. The instance record takes on the look and feel of BIB frame. And the reason for that is within Folio, the community decided that they wanted to make the metadata schema, so be it MARC, be it Dublin Core, whatever it might be, it wanted to make it agnostic. So it wasn't leaning towards a specific schema. And that meant that it didn't matter what you were using, you could use it within Folio. So it's allowing for inclusion of different types of schemas. Okay. Within that instance, you then have holdings. And this might be something new, it might be something that you haven't seen before, but your holdings level inventory is everything to do with where that particular item is. So it will include things like your call number, it will include things as to its location, if it's sitting, wherever it might be. And you might have a number of different holdings records per instance. So let's say you've got a title and this particular BIB record, you've got holdings at 3 different campuses. So you would have 3 different holdings records. And then within those holding records, you then have the very bottom of it, you have the item record. And this is about the physical item. So you might have 3 or 4 items per holdings within an instance. So you might have 4 copies, for example. And this has everything to do with that particular item. So it will have its barcode, it will have its status, whether it's checked in or checked out, so available or not. It will also have things like how many items are attached to it. So you might have a book with a map as an insert. So then it'll have 2 pieces. You might find that it's damaged. So maybe the person who borrowed it previously, the dog got hold of it and it's got some bite marks on it. So then you could say it's slightly damaged. So then when I took it out and I returned it, the librarian's not going to say to me, yeah, but Bronwyn, you damaged this book, you've got to replace it. You can also set up notes or kind of call outs that come up in check-in and check-out within this item level record. You'll see on the right-hand side, I've also opened the actions toolbar. And this is a drop-down that's pretty much consistent across the different apps in Folio. And this is where you can do all sorts of really quick little neat things. So here you can create a new fast add record. So it might be at a point of checkout and you've got an item that hasn't been cataloged. You could quickly add a fast add record. It then becomes an item within your, or an instance within your inventory, and then it can be checked out. It might be a lecturer's book that they want to make available to the user. It might just be something simple that you really need to work with it quite quickly. You can also do single record imports here if you want to. I'm going to get to batch loading a little bit later, but really it's about doing things on the quick and the fly within that inventory app. Let's jump into checkout. So this is actually quite really simple. You can see on the right-hand side, I've got my new fast add record again. So it's kind of these tools that we use in different places that are popping up in different places, and I think that's really nice. But here, if you've got a check-in, you can use a scanner, you can enter your barcode, that's pretty standard. And really, it's just linking that user, so it's coming from that user's app to the inventory and saying, okay, that person is checking it out. Check-in is about as simple as your checkout. When you check in, it will automatically mark it for now. So if I'm checking in a book now, it's going to give this time session. But you can obviously update that. So let's say there was a public holiday and the library wasn't open, you could say, oh, well, they tried to check it in yesterday and couldn't, and you can really overrun that. The last part of circulation is courses. This is quite nice. Okay, so here you will find that you have items within your inventory that a particular lecturer wants to place on a reserved shelf for a course, or they want to basically put together and say, well, these are the titles that I want to make available for the course. So the first thing that you do in Folio is you create the course. So you can see here we've got advanced music therapy. You can put in your course code. You assign it to an instructor, so you can see that's over there. You can give it a start date and an end date, so if it runs for a semester or a term. You can pre-program this. So you could say, I'm setting it up for January for a 1 February start, and you can automatically give it an end. So you can say it's going to end on the 28th of February, for example. And what's really nice about this, and this goes back to EDS, and I quite like this, because now with that bi-directional tie between courses and EBSCO Discovery Service, your users, so remember your users are sitting in EBSCO Discovery Service, they can come in and do a search for a course code, they can do a search for a course name, they can search for an instructor, and it'll give you all that information that is all those items that are assigned to a particular course. And last thing but not least is the circulation log within circulation. And this is really where you can just see what's happening. So this is a colleague of mine, Christopher Holly. That's his barcode. You can see what he's done. He's quite active, but you can do it without assigning it to a particular user. You can look it up as a barcode, an item barcode. You can do it as a date range, whatever you might want to do within Folio to see what's happening in terms of circulation. Okay, let's move on swiftly to acquisitions. Okay, so we've gone through ERM, we've gone through circulation. Now we're going to actually go out and buy some things. Okay, so within acquisitions, your orders app is your kind of foundational app within it. Okay, so it is a priority, with the supporting apps being things like organizations. Remember, you're buying from somebody. It's about receiving, so processing. It's about, unfortunately, having a budget and paying, so finance and invoices, and then that item will obviously go into your inventory, so it will go into your catalog. So if we look at the orders app, you can see it's all very consistent. Okay, I've dropped down the actions button. You can export for any kind of orders that you have ongoing. From within this app, you can create a quick new order. You can pull in orders, whatever you would like to do, and it's assigned to the organizations app. Okay, so these orders would come up in your organizations app. You can also create templates. So templates for orders based on particular vendors. So you might find that EBSCO requires a different template to Sabinet, for example, and you set up this template in your settings and in your implementation. So here you can see my template is my ebooks template for ordering, and then my order headers are automatically assigned. So I don't have to put that information in every time I create an order. It's automatically being pulled in. So this is something I wanted to show you. Okay, and this is one of the things that the Folio community really pushed at the beginning with that Folio idea, when it was still just an idea. And what the idea was is about looking at different softwares. So here I've got an example of Gobi. You might have other tools, and being able to plug those into this Folio environment to be able to link them up. So remember I spoke about the EHoldings app and EBSCO admin and that bi-directional tie between this. Gobi and Folio have that same tie. So I have never done a Gobi training session. I am very embarrassed to admit we've got a Gobi expert, Matthew Rice, and I've never done a training. But last night I managed to, in I think it was about 2 minutes, place an order in Gobi, refresh Folio, and there my order was. I did do a little happy dance, I have to admit, because I got it right first time. but it really goes to show how simple and how easy it is. It's not about relearning tools that you already are used to working on. It's just about following steps. So here you can see I've done a search for my open orders. My order has come up. It's given me a PO number. Okay, the system created that PO number, and you would set that up in your settings. You can see when it's ordered. You can see the price. You can see how many units I bought. And then you can start working with that order. Okay, so you can see here it's Nelson Mandela Speaks, and you've got your POL number. And then you can start actually looking at receiving it. Okay, the receiving app. So remember, I went from orders. So I just want to go back. So I went from orders into receiving. So remember, I placed the order. Now I've got to actually physically work with that particular item. So here I'm in the receiving app. What's interesting is the receiving app can also be used for serials. So books are one thing, serials are something completely different, but you can work with your serials within your receiving app as well. So you can set up forthcoming issues that you might be receiving. You can look at what you've already received. And I heard a little buzz, because remember, this is all about buzz, about talking about claims. There was a question on claims, that can claims be done within Folio? And it is on the roadmap with Folio. So remember, this is a very new product, and there is quite an extensive roadmap. And it's about these integrations, so integrating with EBSCO Net and being able to pull those claims into Folio, but that's coming. But it really, what I wanted to say was I'm a complete novice, and it took me about 2 minutes to get right with that. And then it all comes back to budget. Do I have the budget? So you set up your budgets within your settings. You can set it up calendar year, fiscal year, you give it a date. You can duplicate that into the next year if you want to, and you can go across your fiscal year. You can have funds, you can have ledgers, you can have groups, you can have different buying groups within Folio, depending on your setup within Folio. And you can make it as complicated or as simple as you would really like. And then this is the really hard part of Folio. So when you buy, you have to pay, and they have an Invoices app to be able to pay. And I'm kidding, it's not hard, it's really easy, but it's always that sad moment when you have to pay. But you can really pull in your invoices, you can upload them into Folio, you can drag and drop them into Folio, you can link it to, if you've got a OneDrive file for those invoices, so you can connect it up. And that Invoices app works directly with your finances app. So it kind of ties in to say, well, I've got these invoices, they're assigned to this particular fund. Darn, I'm out of budget. Okay, so it really pulls that in together. And it goes back to what I'm saying about Folio being made up of all these little parts, so all these sums that create that equal whole. Okay. You can have third-party integrations with this Invoices app. So I know in Europe, they have been able to set up EDIFACT. I don't think we use EDIFACT here, but we might, but that's up and running. And it goes to show that any of these tools, we can set them up, we can work with you to really look at what you need within your organization. So I have about 7 minutes left, and I think I only have about 5 slides. So I'm going to go quick. But the last one is about metadata management. Okay, so metadata management is about keeping housekeeping and good housekeeping, and about making sure that information is coming in. So for me, there are 3 apps that sit within the metadata management part of Folio. It's about data import, data export, and obviously your inventory. And it really is fundamental to keep these up to date and really work with these tools well, because I always talk about rubbish in, rubbish out. We need to make sure that those records are clean. And it's really simple. So we've spoken about inventory this morning quite a lot because it's the backbone of Folio. But let's quickly jump into data import and data export. Okay, so this is what data import looks like. And I've spoken a couple of times about my colleague in the US, Christopher Holly. So before I jump into data imports, he used to run a consortium of 36 libraries in one of the states in the US on another system. and he is a professional librarian, and I think he's a cataloging librarian, and he has a wealth of experience and a lot of experience with lots of different systems. And I was doing a training with him, and he basically said, data import. I love data import. And I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, because he's got all this experience, I need to believe him. Because, you know, I don't know any different. But basically, he said, it is so easy, it is so awesome, and he loves this tool. So what you do with data import is you set up job profiles. So before you start, you set up job profiles. And really what happens in your job profiles is you say, okay, so I'm importing these records. If there is a match on records perhaps I already have, there's an action that needs to happen. If there's a non-match, there's another action that needs to happen. So basically, you say, okay, I'm pulling in these folders or these items. You click on run, and then you choose what job profile you want to have. So do you want it to create a instance record and an SRS record? So remember that source record storage or that mark record. What do you want the system to do? And it will automatically run that for you. So it's really, really, really easy. I managed to get it right. I didn't break it, but it's really nice, and it's a really, really awesome tool. Okay, so here's the second slide. So before sorry, let me go back. Data import. Okay. Data export runs pretty much in the same way. Okay, so it will run doing the same kind of processes, and it really is very, very simple and easy to do. Before we end, I just wanted to give you an update on where we are with regards to Folio. So we have 2 university libraries running full Folio in Southern Africa. We've got Durban University of Technology. They were the very first full Folio customer in Africa. They're the first customer outside of the United States to run with a partner, with UKS for Folio. And they've been running on Folio for pretty much live for almost a year. So it's really nice to have them on board. They had quite a big change. They were running a different discovery service. We changed their discovery service over to EBSCO Discovery Service. So it was a big change for them. And I think they're happy. They are willing to speak to you if you'd like to ask them any questions. The second customer is Namibia University of Science and Technology. They decided to go with ERM first. So remember that first part of my presentation. And they ran ERM first for a couple of months. I think it was about 6 months. And then at the beginning of the year, they made that leap into full Folio. They were an EBSCO Discovery Service customer. So it was really about the administration side on their library system that needed to change. And then we have some customers that are busy implementing. So University of Zululand is one of them. They're going with full Folio. Open Window Institute is another. They are a creative education institution with campuses in Centurion, Cape Town, and Zambia. So they're a very different type of university or library. And then the National University of Lesotho. So you can see here, we've got very different libraries within our region implementing. We also have global customers using and implementing Folio. And this is very interesting and to see and very important. So customers like Cornell, customers like Caltech, customers like the 5 Colleges Consortia who are using ERM at this point, the National Library of Florence. So they are all full Folio customers implemented with either a partner or EBSCO, okay? And this really goes to show that we can support you depending on, and it doesn't really matter what type of library you are, we can work with you, okay? There are libraries outside of this that are running Folio on their own. We don't include them in this list. There are those libraries out there. And really it's because Folio is very simple, it's very intuitive, it's very flexible, and it's really built to support libraries that are looking towards the future. So before I sign off, this is my quick ad break. Please join me tomorrow to talk about the new EBSCO Discovery Service UI. And then next week, we're going to talk about Panorama. So it's Phil the Panorama man. He's going to talk about analytics and really where we've taken statistics to analytics to actionable insights. So being able to say, oh, well, that's what's going on in my library. Maybe I need to do something about it. Or, oh, I need to buy more of that because there's an impact between different systems. Panorama is fabulous. It's full of Panorama Man will take you through that. So I've got 1 minute left. I want to say thank you again for joining me and listening to me. I've spoken solidly for a full hour. I'm definitely going to have another cup of tea. My name is Bronwyn Russman. Here's my email address, brussman@ebsco.com, and my cell phone number if you'd like to get hold of me. Between myself and the other EBSCO representatives, Colleen, Dean, Tian, Annika, we are more than happy to come talk to you about Folio, talk to you about what systems you have in your library, if you are interested in Folio and how they can work together, and really just give you more information. So please do chat to us and we would be more than happy to help. So thank you for listening and for joining me today, and I wish you a beautiful Wednesday.
Wait, you can't go. There's a few questions.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you.
There were a few questions that we couldn't answer in the chat because there really are questions that you should answer. So if you just have a look in the chat, there was one from Anish that, I'm just looking for it now, said, I would like to check if there is a note field that can be used for the users on ERM. For example, if I needed to place a note directing the user how to access a resource within that specific, access the resource within that specific package.
Yes, yes, you can. So that would come in to, if I'm correct, it would come in through licenses, and then you would create a user-facing note that you would then be able. So you create the note, and there's a little checkbox underneath it that says user-facing note, and then it comes up into EBSCO Discovery Service. And thank you so much for telling me, for bringing up that question, Colleen, because what I also wanted to mention, and I didn't mention it, is so EBSCO Discovery Service is the user platform for Folio. We are also releasing an OPAC. It's released by EBSCO, so it's an application that EBSCO is building within that Folio environment. I've been told it's about the middle of the year that it's coming out. We're doing naming at the moment, but it's really nice because it supports your very librarian-specific searching of your ILS.
Okay, which comes to Naomi's question, which is, does the system have a cataloging module? Okay, yes. Fabulous. And then Tandy asked about the invoicing for Gobi working only for Folio. I have responded in the chat to that, but maybe if I can just mention, and Bronwyn, you can add into it as appropriate. I'm not sure if only invoicing for Gobi. So Gobi invoicing, you can get directly from Gobi. But I think that what your question was is, do we only support Gobi? And the answer is no, we don't only support Gobi. The intention, as Bronwyn said in the beginning, is to really promote openness within systems. And there are some things in the beginning of this Folio development that may have been a little bit limiting. But as Folio has grown and grown, as long as there are tools that enable the linking of that resource, we can usually link to it. There might be a little bit of tweaking that needs to happen from the Folio side if the development isn't there yet. But the whole intention with Folio is that the library can take the system, and as they need extra things, they can add to it. So, and Gobi is one that we can add in easily, but if you had another book ordering tool sorry, that was a dog, we can definitely add that in.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's a conversation. So the whole thing behind Folio is it's a conversation. You know, we are not the same as Africa. We are not the same in terms of the tools that we use in Europe or in the United States or in Australia. And I know that there are a lot of really clever people at EBSCO that are doing really cool things with syncing tools, so being able to sync up and link to external applications or systems, whatever you want to call it, within that Folio environment. And we've got a huge knowledge base that we can tap into to make that work for you.
Okay, and then we have a question from Angel. Thank you for your question about, is there a cost implication? So maybe you can just extrapolate on that for us.
Okay, so Angel, if you want to go and download the code for the software, that's free. So the software is free. So it's like Microsoft. You normally have to pay for it. With Folio, you don't. Okay, so that is absolutely free. If you want help with Folio, so if you want help with implementing it, there will be a cost associated. It's a service cost. If you want help with training on Folio, there's a cost associated with it. But we can work with you to talk about what kind of cost you're looking at, what you would like to do within your Folio installation. If you want to go and do it yourself, you are absolutely more than welcome to. There are a number of libraries around the world that have done that. But EBSCO and UKS are really here to support you if you don't want to embark on that on your own, if you need assistance, and there is a cost associated with that.
Okay, then we have a question about trials. Does EBSCO give a trial version of Folio?
So no, we don't. So the reason for that is it takes a very long time to implement. It's a lot of work. We set up a configuration for you in your particular instance. I can come take you through a demo. So I can come and show you what Folio can do. I can take you from basically the very, very beginning all the way to the very, very end to show you what kind of tools are available, what you can do within Folio. But yeah, no, there isn't a trial.
Yeah, it's not really like a database. You know, a database is easy to turn on, but an ILS system
It's huge.
is a real implementation. There's also the wiki though, Bronwyn,
Yes.
and the Folio websites. Maybe you can just talk about those.
Yeah, so absolutely. So let me just stop sharing for 1 second.
We're going over time here, but it's really helpful, these questions, I think.
I'm going to just stop sharing and I'm going to share again. So here you can see it's wiki.folio.org, and I didn't put these I didn't put these URLs in. We can send them to you, but here you can see we've got the wiki.folio.org, and this has got everything to do with Folio. So you can go into user guides on Folio. You can see the special interest groups. So there's like an ERM special interest group, and there's a cataloging special interest group, and you can join those groups if you want to. There's also quite nice things on news and events, project updates. And then here, if you go down, there are our demo sites. So you can actually go into the Iris release if you want to, the Juniper release, the Kiwi release. You can go into Folio, you can see the release note, Lotus, you can go into the release notes for Lotus. And these are just the product increments. So we give them flower names, and it's like bee to a flower, so the buzz and the flower. But you can jump into that. So you can go into the Lotus release, see what's been released in Lotus. And we do have different snapshots within Folio, and you can go in and jump into that. And if you're German, you could go into the German snapshot too.
Fabulous, thank you. And then Stephen has a mention to say maybe highlight the cost benefit versus traditional ILS systems.
Okay, yes, thank you, Stephen. Thank you very much for pointing that out. So yes, absolutely. So, you know, when you look at open source and setting up open source, there are costs associated with it. Okay, so you want to implement, you want to train, you want to have support. But as you evolve with that system, you can then decide what you would like to engage in terms of costs. So if you would like continued training, you can pay for continued training. If you would like continued support, you can pay for continued support. But as you grow and evolve with that software, you don't really necessarily, and it's up to you, engage with those. So that cost, it kind of tends to drop off over time. Whereas with the traditional ILS, you have a fixed cost. It costs however many dollars a year, and every year there's an incremental increase on that price, be it 5%, 6%, 10%, who knows what it is. What we've also found with traditional ILSs, if you want anything, you have to pay for it. So if you wanted an additional module, you'd need to pay for it. And I do find in a lot of the libraries that does become a bit of a barrier to entry.
Also, I think the license, because there's no license fees, you won't have that cost. EBSCO hosts, so if you decide to go, and I know that Bronwyn has mentioned this, but if you decide to use Folio through EBSCO, we host it on Amazon Web Services. And so it is a premium service, Amazon Web Services. And we chose that because it's premium and nobody really wants to have downtime. You know, if you are in South Africa or anywhere else in Africa and you have an ESCOM situation, we don't want you to have the same situation with your ILS. We want you to never have to have a rolling blackout with it. And so we choose a very reliable system, which is Amazon Web Services. So the hosting is always an issue when it comes to EBSCO servicing it, but there's no license fees and other costs that are apparent. But with Amazon Web Services, you don't have service to maintain. You don't have those types of things with having local hosting. That is an issue of the past. So yeah. Sorry.
No. There was just one more question that came up in the question and answers from Gail. Is Folio a new EBSCO database? So Folio is an open source library services platform that EBSCO is supporting. So it's not a typical database like Academic Search or Business Source. It's a library services platform. So I hope I've answered that for you. Are there any other questions? You're on mute, Colleen.
Like I'm talking to myself. It looks like we're good. It looks like we've answered all the questions. And as I mentioned somewhere in the chat, we are very, and Bronwyn mentioned this as well, we're very happy to do individual presentations or answer questions on an individual level if you have them. So as Absolutely. You feel like you have any needs, then let us know. Okay, so I'm going to hand it back to you, Bronwyn, and stop interfering.
Great. We do have a hand up from Yahaya, so I've allowed her to speak.
Okay, thank you. Yahaya?
You need to unmute.
Can you not do that? Lihle?
No, I can't on my side. I've given
okay.
permission. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I don't think I'm gonna give Pumlani an opportunity.
Okay.
Thank you, Bronwyn and the team. This is very interesting, and I'm sure we'll enjoy using it. Though from the ERM module, I was hoping to see something that is covering the usage statistics, especially since that's one thing that's linked to what is being written on those licenses. I thought maybe Folio was coming with some sort of a blanket that will overlay over our databases. Then we poke holes where we need to analyze the usage that will inform the decision going forward in terms of our general subscription for all the databases. But hopefully one day we'll get something that addresses such issues.
Pumlani, today is one day. So can you see my screen? Can you see Panorama on the screen?
Yes.
We are still seeing Confluence. We're not seeing Panorama.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, sometimes with Zoom, funny things happen. Okay, can you see Panorama now?
Yes.
Yes,
it's very pretty.
It's such a pretty view. So I didn't mention this, okay, and it's probably exactly what I should be mentioning, and thank you for pointing this out, Pumlani. So with Folio, you get a complimentary subscription to Panorama Essentials. Panorama Essentials is powered by usage consolidation. So usage consolidation is an EBSCO tool that you also get part of Folio. And so usage consolidation is basically that tool that pulls in your usage statistics from different vendors. It normalizes it into your counter usage reports, and then it gets pushed into Panorama. Panorama within Folio, so Panorama Essentials within Folio is your ILS usage statistics, so your Folio usage statistics, as well as your usage consolidation usage statistics, which is your e-resources. It pulls it in. I think there are about between 20 and 30 dashboards within Panorama Essentials. They're very visual, and what they do is they will show you what's happening with circulation, what's happening with budget, what's happening with purchases within a certain subject area or within a certain fund code. So that comes as part of Folio, so Panorama Essentials. You can, as an organization, subscribe to Panorama on its own. You don't have to subscribe to Panorama within Folio. That allows for 3 different data sources. So you could have your ILS, you might want your counter statistics, and you might want authentication to see what happens with authentication to use and how does that tie in together. So that is that reporting tool. So Panorama Essentials is a reporting tool. When we set up Folio, Panorama Essentials is only set up at the end because you need data in the system to be able to run those dashboards. We can load historic data. So if you are moving from Sierra to Folio, or if you have Sierra, it doesn't really matter, and you want that historic information coming in, we can pull that into Panorama as well. So I hope that that answers your question. Join us next week, Thursday, for Full Panorama Man, and he will really take us through it in a lot more detail and show you those really, 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 really awesome dashboards.
So
Sure, thank you, Karen.
Oh, sorry, Pumlani, I didn't mean to cut you off. We have one more question in the chat.
Okay.
We're going way over time though, but maybe you can just respond. My library system consists of 10 libraries. Can customize Folio for its digitization? And maybe we need to deal with this specifically with one-on-one with this client. There's no problem with the amount of libraries are part of the library system, but maybe it's a bit more in-depth answer. And so we might want to answer this separately. I don't know, Bronwyn.
Yeah. So I think it's Tokpa. We've got your email address, so we'll reach out to you afterwards. Doesn't matter how many libraries are part of your system, we can pull that into Folio, and you can customize. So everything about Folio is that customization. So actually, I'm probably just answering your question anyway. So we can customize it based on your needs. And this is something that we've always said with Folio, is we prefer to come and speak to you, see what systems you have, see how your processes work, and then figure out a solution that works for you. Because it might be that you have Folio, but there might be 1 or 2, you might only want ERM, for example, or only acquisitions is important. So let's look at it. We can talk to you about it and really help you through this journey.
Fabulous. Thank you. I think we've got prizes, don't we?
Yes, we've got prizes. So we still got 6 people online. That's so nice to see. But Annika's got prizes. Over to you.
Thank you for that informative session, Bronwyn. And then all those questions. Interesting, serious. So let's go to the fun part. And hopefully I get to make someone's not so warm day a bit more fuzzy. Let me just share my screen. Oh, Bron, can you just stop sharing your screen, please? Thank you. Okay, let's do this. Let's see who is our lucky winner for today.
Exciting. Gosh, it just jumped a whole lot of people. What's the prize?
I'll tell you now. Gabriel. So Gabriel is our lucky winner today. It is a 500 Rand take a lot gift voucher, as well as a 6-month complimentary subscription to either the ebook academic or ebook business collection subscription collection. Right back to you.
Thank you, Annika. Gabriel, we will reach out with access credentials. That's for your institution. So just to sign off, thank you for keep staying with us for an extra, about 18 minutes. We really, really appreciate it. We appreciate you joining us this morning. I hope that I conveyed some understanding with Folio. Like I said at the beginning, that was my objective, to keep it simple. So thank you very much. If you do have any questions, one last time, here are my details. You can reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help you. And please don't forget EDS tomorrow and Panorama next week. Thank you so much.
Everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye from Nigeria, Kwasu. Bye.
Bye.